Thanks to the disturbed, hateful, perverted mind of Mindy Kaling and her narcissistic, vengeful, racist reimagining of Velma, the term hate-watching seems to have reached new heights in public discourse.
The scientific term for this phenomenon is hate-watching.
And as the foremost experts on the concept and pioneers in the practice of hate-watching, we feel some responsibility to discuss the topic. Hello and welcome to the appropriately named HateWatchers. Before we jump into it, make sure to hit the thumbs up and click the subscribe button below to stay up to date as we crap all over the latest hate watches. And we cover great watches too, so join us for those as well. Hate watching is the act of viewing a show or movie just to experience how completely awful it is. Typically, the viewers pepper in some well-deserved trash talk as they're watching the abomination play out on screen, before dunking on it once the credits are rolled and discussing how ashamed the creators and their immediate families should be of themselves. Shows or movies that qualify as official hate watches have little to no redeeming qualities. They are an offense to all of the senses. They make food taste bad. They make the world seem darker by their mere presence. They suck all hope for humanity out of the air as the unfortunate viewers try to fathom how people got paid to produce such a steaming pile of crap. As they try to fathom how a room full of executives signed off on something like this and said, "Yup, that's great. I really like how Galadriel is an emotionless robot, one mean look away from going on a murder spree." Or, "Sure, Mindy Kaling, we trust you. Do what you want with the show. Take a second season while you're at it. And thank you for explaining why my skin color makes me a racist. I'm glad to be an ally." Now, the past few years have made it abundantly clear that despite the best efforts of well-meaning fans trying to salvage something from the rebooted brands they loved in their youths, shitty shows and movies are here to stay for now. Shows that sacrifice art and coherent storytelling in favor of their contemporary ideological messaging, movies that ignore the very things that made the brand a success, franchises and creators that set out to destroy everything that came before them, it's all showing no signs of slowing down. Quite the contrary, in fact. This is Hate Watchers, and we may have a slight case of selection bias, but by all accounts, there's been an increase in crappy shows and movies. 2022 was releasing so many dumpster fires at a breakneck pace that I'm almost relieved we didn't start the channel earlier in the year. Otherwise, the real Blood Origin releasing at the end of December would have been our brains splattering all over the wall. And really, 2022 has to be an all-time low for TV shows. You can check out the 2022 Hate Watchers Awards for a refresher, but here are just some of the gems from last year. The Rings of Power, Halo, Kenobi, Blood Origin, Willow, Resident Evil, The Book of Boba Fett, She-Hulk. Each of these shows had built-in fans to disappoint and countless professionals behind the scenes that should have been able to cobble together something decent. But instead, we got 8 incredible failures in their own right. The highest rated show out of that bunch was maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10. And all of these are known quantities. These are new takes on old things that people already like. But the creators of these shows somehow found a way to make us not like them anymore. 3 or 4 of these shows are nothing short of what can be considered franchise killers. It boggles the mind. It's impressively shitty work by everyone involved. And the budgets are growing. Everyone knows the billion-dollar investment Amazon sunk into the Rings of Power. But even Halo spent $10 million per episode, just so the characters can talk about things we don't give a shit about at all. She-Hulk apparently cost $25 million per episode, although unless some executive skipped town with his secretary to the Bahamas to set up a crypto exchange, I couldn't tell you where any of that money went. And don't forget, on the big screen we got Morbius, Jurassic World Dominion, Firestarter, Moonfall. 2022 was the year for crappy media. Long story short, hate watching isn't going anywhere, so you might as well strap in and enjoy the ride. Now, many detest hate watching and the people who do it nearly as much as the crappy show or movie itself. They believe that if we stop giving the show or movie the views it needs to survive, then it will die off and be cast into the dumpster bin of history. But this belief doesn't track very well with the trends of modern studios. The Rings of Power got a pretty firm 5-season promise before a single episode aired. Velma got a season 2 just 1 week after airing, at a time when it was scoring impressively low review numbers. Halo got a season 2 before anyone had seen a minute of Master Chief's face and ass on screen. The actual viewership numbers are not as important to the decision makers as you might imagine, considering they're renewing shows without even having any viewership numbers available. Studios are just gambling on the next big show, and when faced with the grim reality that people don't like what they're making, they're choosing to double down nearly every single time. Out of the list of shows we mentioned from 2022, only one has been outright canceled. And if you're expecting the business execs to step in and right the ship at some point, putting their foot down and making the studio produce higher quality, better liked content, then you really haven't been paying attention lately. These are the same executives that greenlit the projects in the first place and spent millions marketing them after they knew what kind of final product they were getting. For the time being, no one is coming to save us.
Help me, Tom Cruise! Tom Cruise using witchcraft on me!
Here we go. Going in.
So for those who detest HateWatchers and hate watching in general because they view it as working in opposition to market forces that could lead to better content, we're still waiting on any evidence that not watching actually leads to better content being made. 2022 sure isn't proof of that. And the actual number of people hate watching really isn't that high, but we'll discuss that matter in a bit. Now we're sure some of you are thinking, but why though? Why watch something you don't like? Well, for the same reason you watch something you do like. It's entertainment. It's fun to play the critic and pick apart just how terrible something really is. Something that costs millions of dollars, that brought top-tier talent together to tell a story, that's going to be water cooler talk the next day, if water coolers even still exist. It's fun to talk trash on things that deserve it. Hate watching is like watching NASCAR for the crashes, or watching bum fights. It's not the most noble pursuit, but it's damn entertaining. And when so many shows and movies are now remakes and reboots of popular franchises from people's childhoods, it introduces a whole new element to hate watching. You see, us fans just want more new stories and content from our favorite franchises. It's a simple request. But then the creators roll out of bed and choose violence as they butcher our beloved characters and make a mockery of the very franchise they're getting paid to add to. And this is where hate watching truly shines. Hate watching gives us a way to squeeze some enjoyment and entertainment out of the polished turd we were handed. Hate watching as a community gives us hope that there's still some good to be found in the world. Hate watching gives us justice. If you're going to mock the fans by giving us your shitty fanfiction knockoff take on the franchise, then we're coming right back at you with all of the criticism you deserve. Ultimately, hate watching is an important tool that can turn something bad into something good for us. And 2022 taught us that there's no change coming on the horizon. These crappy shows are the lemons that life gave us, so grab some vodka because it's time to make some lemonade. Now, we don't tell anyone that they should get out there and hate watch. We just understand that some people take part in it, and we don't see a problem with those who choose to make the best of a bad situation. As for us,
it is too late for me.
Well, our goal is simply to entertain and maybe inform a bit along the way. When a bad show or movie comes out and we review it, we know that we're keeping some people away from the product. If we keep just 2 people from giving bad content their views or money, then our efforts have been a net positive on the industry. And in all honesty, we prefer it if we can save people some time and help them avoid the negative mental toll a truly awful piece of media can take on them. So if you're not one to hate watch yourself, not a problem. Sit back and let us do the hate watching for you. Now, going back to the actual number of people who hate watch, it's important to note 2 things. Number 1, hate watching is not a sustainable source of viewers, and number 2, don't confuse hate watching with hope watching. For the first point, this is more in reference to the discussion about whether or not a show can exist and survive solely based on people hate watching it. Velma enters the chat on this one, with news that viewership of the show shot way up as the reviews shot way down, and shortly thereafter came news about a likely season 2 for the show. But unlike peak form Mindy Kaling at a buffet, this viewership spike eventually stops as people burn out, the jokes get played out, and the public discussion on the show or movie dies down. People only really hate watch in short bursts on current thing types of shows. At the end of the day, people don't want to waste their time, and as soon as they're not able to dunk on a show with their friends anymore, they'll move on. So no, while it's fun to do now and then, hate watching alone cannot keep a show alive. And secondly, it's easy to confuse hate watchers with hope watchers, and that's because both groups of people are watching something they don't like. But these 2 types of viewers differ at their very core. One is black-pilled and one is white-pilled. One knows that they're watching trash and they want to make the best out of it. The other holds on to everlasting hope that one day, maybe, just maybe the next episode, things will get better. Kenobi, for example, had a much higher number of hope watchers than it did hate watchers. Even though it was mediocre at its highest highs and the majority of people didn't like the show, they weren't hate watching. They were just waiting, hoping that the next scene might restore their faith in Disney Star Wars, that seeing Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen back together again would spark some love for the franchise they've been watching get systematically butchered for the last 6 years. So viewers like these don't qualify as card-carrying hate watchers and they shouldn't be counted as such. And one last point that we want to clarify is that we're not angry about any of this. A small number of people seem to think that we're so triggered, bro, about the shows that we hate watch and review, and some of them lash out at you all in the comments with the same kind of nonsense. But it's important to realize that these are the types of people who, themselves, can't separate their emotions from anything they do in their life. The concept of people like us who are able to critique or criticize something without being emotional or upset about it is so foreign and antithetical to their very existence that they can't comprehend the idea. They can't fathom how we can say something is bad or wrong without it shaking us to our very core like it does with them. So if someone like this tries to give you grief on your hate-watching hobby, just remember that they're emotional wrecks fuming behind a keyboard because of words on a screen. 2022 was a spectacular year for hate-watching. Shows like Kenobi and Halo are why we started the channel. Taking potshots at the terrible shows we started out hope-watching quickly became grade A fun hate-watching that we wanted to share with others, if nothing more than to find some cheap laughs in the heap of crap unfolding before us. As we stand here today, we can't tell you if or when the industry will get its head on straight and start trying to make good content again. All we know is that for now, hate-watching is here to stay, and we're staying here to hate-watch with you. Remember to hit the thumbs up if you liked the video, and if you didn't like the video, well then you just got a front row experience in hate-watching. You're welcome. Let us know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on hate-watching? Do you think it's actually preventing us from getting good shows and movies? How many shows do you hate-watch yourself? Click the subscribe button to join us back here for new hate watches as studios continue to crap them out at an alarming rate. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.